Greetings, respected chairperson, distinguished colleagues, and fellow participants. It is an honor for me today to present our research entitled The Impact of Technology Readiness in F&B Mobile Apps Among Gen Z. My name is Clarissa Angela Viani, and together with other authors, Agnes Cheryl and Miss Margaret Setiawan, we are from Bina Nusantara University, Indonesia. Today, I will walk you throughout our research, starting from the research background until the findings of this study, as well as the implication for both theoretical and practical in the field of digital technology adoption. Here is the outline for today's presentation, and let me start with the research background. Generation Z is a major driver of digital technology adoption. In Indonesia, they make out 27.94% of the total population, making them a strong and powerful demographic to set trends in digital service usage. At the same time, the food and beverage industry has shown a rapid growth. We have seen a fast expansion of mobile application in this sector, especially during and after the pandemic COVID-19 back in 2020, when online food ordering has become a part of our daily habit. The importance of this study lies in understanding the user behavior, in understanding how we can match technology readiness to Gen Z's unique traits in order to boost the adoption of F&B mobile application. And here is the research gap. While the technology acceptance model framework has been widely used, there are very few studies that has combined it with the technology readiness, particularly in the context of F&B mobile apps used by Gen Z in Indonesia, and that is the contribution we aim to make. Our research has four main objectives. First, to analyze the effect of optimism, innovativeness, and discomfort, which are the three dimensions of technology readiness on perceived ease of use. Second, to examine whether perceived ease of use influence the intention to use F&B mobile application. Third, we integrate the technology readiness into the extended technology acceptance model framework. And finally, we aim to provide theoretical and practical insight for developing a user-centered F&B mobile application that are aligned with the expectations of Gen Z. Now let's move on to the literature review. First, the Technology Acceptance Model, or TAM. This model explains how innovations are adopted while focusing on two key factors, perceived usefulness and perceived ease of use, as mentioned by Felber and colleagues on their study back in 2024. Over the years, many scholars have combined the technology acceptance model framework with external factors. One such external factor is technology readiness. Technology readiness refers to a person's overall attitude towards new technology. Technology readiness have both positive and negative traits, as mentioned by Damerji and Salimi on their research back in 2021. The positive traits, such as optimism and innovativeness, while negative traits, such as discomfort. The positive traits encourage technology adoption, while negative traits hinder it. However, when we look to previous study, there is still a limited number of works that has combined the technology readiness with the TAM framework, especially in the context of F&B mobile apps and Gen Z in Indonesia. And that is the research gap that we've mentioned earlier. And based on the theory, we developed four hypotheses. Hypothesis 1, optimism positively influence perceived ease of use. Hypothesis 2, innovativeness positively influence perceived ease of use. Hypothesis 3, discomfort negatively influence perceived ease of use. And hypothesis 4, perceived ease of use positively influence intention to use. Together, these four hypotheses allowed us to test how attitudinal readiness, or the technology readiness, interacts with the TAM framework in the context of F&B mobile apps among Gen Z. And this is our research model. On the left, we have the three dimensions of technology readiness: optimism, innovativeness, and discomfort, which are fit into the perceived ease of use, which then is expected to influence the intention to use FMB mobile apps. Our research used a quantitative method. We conducted an online survey targeting Generation Z in Indonesia. We collected 201 respondents, and after data cleaning, we retained 185 valid responses. The instrument used a 5-point Likert scale to measure optimism, innovativeness, discomfort, perceived ease of use, and intention to use. And for the analysis, we employed partially square structural equation modeling, or PLS SEM, using Smart PLS 4.0. This method allowed us to test both structural model and measurement model for both validity and reliability. And let me share the result of our bootstrapping analysis. From this result, we can see that for hypothesis 1, optimism to perceived ease of use is supported with a positive influence. For hypothesis 2, innovativeness to perceived ease of use is supported with a positive influence, a positive effect. Hypothesis 3, discomfort to perceived ease of use is also supported with a negative effect. However, for hypothesis 4, perceived ease of use to intention to use is not supported, which means that perceived ease of use does not significantly affect intention to use. And from the R-square value, this model explains 67.6% of the variance for perceived ease of use, but only 5.6% of the variance for intention to use. This means that while technology readiness explains how Gen Z perceive the ease of use, there may be other factors that affect more on their actual intention to use. Now let's move on to the discussion. Our findings shows that positive attitudes in technology readiness, such as optimism and innovativeness, are indeed key drivers on how an app feels easy to use, while the negative attitudes or the negative traits such as discomfort lowers this perception. However, when it comes to intention to use, perceived ease of use is not significant. Why? Because Gen Z is already a digital native. For them, perceived ease of use is no longer a deciding factor. They are already well adapted and comfortable with technology. Instead, other factors such as perceived usefulness, social engagement, or hedonic value may be more important. And our contribution is twofold. First, for the theoretical contribution, our study extended the TAM framework with technology readiness in the context of FMB mobile apps among Gen Z in Indonesia. And more importantly, our findings shows that perceived ease of use does not always affect intention to use, at least not for digital generations. And for the practical contribution, our findings provide design guidelines for app developers and FMB businesses. Especially to target Gen Z, an app should go beyond being easy to use. They also should deliver other values such as perceived usefulness, social engagement, and trust, while reducing the feeling of discomfort. And of course, our research has some limitations. First, from the sample composition was not fully balanced. Our majority respondents were female and students, which may affect the generalizability of the results. Second, from the R-squared value for intention to use was relatively low, which means that our model only explained a very small part of their actual intention to use. And for future research, we recommend including additional factors or other external factors such as perceived usefulness, social engagement, or trust. We also suggest to collect a more balanced data to improve the external validity and also to extend the model scope to cover other factors from user behaviors. So to conclude, our study demonstrates that technology readiness, optimism, innovativeness, and discomfort significantly affect perceived ease of use. But the ease of use does not necessarily translate into the intention to use FMB mobile apps among Gen Z. These findings highlight that for digital natives, system usability or the ease of use is expected as a given. What matters more are other values such as social influence, perceived usefulness, and trust. Thank you for your attention, and I will be happy to answer any questions.